President Donald Trump's recent announcement of a 10% tariff on Chinese imports, set to take effect on February 1st, 2025, marks a significant escalation in ongoing trade tensions between the US and China. This decision follows his earlier plan to impose a 25% tariff on imports from Canada and Mexico, two of the US's closest trading partners. These tariffs are part of a broader strategy by the Trump administration to address critical issues, including illegal immigration, drug trafficking, and particularly the rising influx of fentanyl into the US, which has been a major concern. The 10% tariff on Chinese goods is the latest development in the evolving trade war, with Trump using tariffs as a tool to address trade imbalances and push back against what he describes as unfair trade practices by China. In response, the Chinese government has expressed alarm, asserting that there are no winners in a trade war. Chinese officials warn that tariffs and retaliatory measures would harm all parties, increasing costs and disrupting supply chains. They have highlighted the risk of a destructive cycle of economic hostility that could damage not only the US and China, but also the global economy. In addition to the tariffs on China, Trump has focused on trade with North America. The proposed 25% tariffs on Canadian and Mexican goods have sparked strong reactions. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has vowed a robust response, emphasizing that Canada's energy exports are vital to the US economy and that these tariffs would harm both countries. Ontario Premier Doug Ford has called the tariffs a declaration of war and announced retaliatory measures, including a potential boycott of US-made alcohol and targeted actions against products from Republican-held areas in the automotive sector. Volkswagen, with significant manufacturing operations in Mexico, has expressed concern that these tariffs could severely impact the automotive market in North America and beyond, warning of higher prices for American consumers and global disruptions. Meanwhile, China has quietly escalated its own retaliatory measures. These include restricting exports of rare earth elements, which are essential for manufacturing high-tech products like electronics, batteries, and military equipment. This move could strategically impact the US technology and defense sectors. China has also reduced its oil imports from the US and imposed tariffs exceeding 74.9% on specific American products, further intensifying trade tensions. These actions have broadened to include goods imported from the European Union, Japan, and Taiwan. Reflecting the global scope of these economic conflicts, the trade war has also targeted specific industries. For example, the US has increased tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles, EVs, from 25% to 100%, citing heavy subsidies by the Chinese government that undermine US EV manufacturers like Tesla and Rivian. The US has also raised tariffs on lithium-ion batteries from 7.5% to 25%, aiming to reduce dependency on Chinese suppliers and promote domestic production. Similarly, the semiconductor industry has become a focal point as the US seeks to reduce its reliance on China. Chinese-made components, critical for everything from smartphones to military technologies, are facing significant tariff hikes. By 2025, tariffs on Chinese semiconductors are set to increase from 20.5% to 50%. The purpose of these increases is to incentivize domestic semiconductor production and reduce vulnerabilities in key technology sectors. These measures align with the CHIPS Act, aimed at boosting US-based chip manufacturing and ensuring leadership in semiconductor technology, while reducing reliance on Chinese exports. The medical industry has also been affected. The US is implementing substantial tariff hikes on medical supplies from China, including syringes, needles, and certain types of personal protective equipment, PPE, previously tariff-free. These goods will now face tariffs rising to 50% by 2024, impacting approximately $18 billion worth of imports. These actions reflect the US government's focus on strengthening domestic manufacturing in the medical sector, especially after supply chain disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. In Europe, the EU has taken a firm stance against China's alleged unfair trade practices. Starting in late 2024, the EU began imposing new tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, EVs, ranging from 7.8% to 35.3%, with the highest tariffs reaching 45.3%. This follows an investigation that revealed Chinese EV manufacturers were benefiting from government subsidies, giving them an unfair advantage in European markets. The EU has also targeted other sectors, such as food and agriculture, by implementing anti-dumping tariffs to protect its industries from unfairly priced Chinese imports. Japan and Taiwan have adopted more strategic approaches to counter China's growing economic influence. Japan, traditionally a strong trade partner with China, has been strengthening its industrial policies, particularly in semiconductors, rare earth elements, and critical minerals, to reduce dependence on Chinese imports and safeguard its industrial base. Taiwan, a key player in the global semiconductor supply chain, is actively exploring new economic partnerships to mitigate risks from China's aggressive trade policies. Both nations are working to diversify their economic ties to reduce vulnerabilities in their economies. At the heart of these escalating trade measures is a desire by all parties to protect domestic industries from the perceived threat of unfair competition. In response, China has implemented its own retaliatory measures, including provisional anti-dumping tariffs on polyacetyl copolymers, a critical material for industries like automotive, electronics, and medical devices. Tariffs on US exports. Polyacetyl copolymers range from 57.2% to 74.9%, targeting companies like DuPont. While tariffs on European and Japanese firms are slightly lower, they remain substantial, forcing companies to either raise prices or lose market share in China. These tariffs have broader implications. Industries relying on polyacetyl copolymers, such as automotive, electronics, and medical equipment manufacturing, are likely to face higher production costs, leading to increased consumer prices. The global supply chain could be disrupted as companies turn to alternative suppliers or reshape their strategies to mitigate the impact. The escalating trade tensions also pose risks to international relations. Retaliatory measures could lead to a cycle of escalation, resulting in political fallout that extends beyond the economic sphere. Prolonged trade disputes risk destabilizing the global economy, straining political alliances, and complicating international trade and geopolitics. With former President Trump's assertive return to the political stage and his focus on aggressive trade policies, the coming months will be crucial in determining the direction of these conflicts. Will countries find ways to negotiate and resolve disputes diplomatically? Or will the world be locked into a cycle of retaliation that destabilizes the global economic system? At this critical juncture, global leaders must prioritize dialogue and negotiation over punitive measures. A balanced approach to trade imbalances, focusing on fair practices and economic cooperation, could prevent further escalation and secure a more sustainable path for international trade. Otherwise, the ongoing tariff wars could lead to rising consumer costs, long-term geopolitical consequences, and diminished global prosperity. In conclusion, the tariff wars initiated during Trump's administration, along with retaliatory measures from China and other nations, have the potential to reshape global trade dynamics profoundly. As tensions continue to escalate, the global community must remain vigilant and seek diplomatic solutions that prioritize economic stability and cooperation. While the future remains uncertain, the coming months will be pivotal in determining the resilience of global economies and the future of international trade.